Hi, my name's Pastor Eric, and if you listen to the Faith Over Breakfast podcast or Journey Companion Ministries podcast or the Healing the City podcast, you probably recognize my voice. And you probably recognize it as the intro to many of these, telling you all about how you can support us. We just want to say thanks for supporting us. Hope that you'll continue. Enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. You are listening to a podcast by Pastor Eric Deepen and Pastor Andy Littleton. If you enjoy Faith Over Breakfast, we encourage you to rate it on the Apple Podcast app, on Spotify, or Google Play. Thank you and enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast.
Oh, are we doing that? Wow.
My name is Andy from Mission Church, and Eric
took my headphones off. I was done
Eric
with this
was
podcast.
running out of the room, but we have talked about Bitcoin. Shorter episode. Hope you enjoy that. And it's based on a episode of Theology in the Raw, Preston Sprinkles podcast. The title of it is "Thank God for Bitcoin." It is very interesting. I've almost listened to it. Eric has. And we were discussing out of it. That would be a good episode to go listen to after you listen to our little ramblings and get your appetite developed for that episode. So maybe that's what we're doing. We're saying we're giving you a short episode here so you can go deeper dive. Yeah. But we had some ideas in this episode. They might be ridiculous.
But
there's some good stuff. Enjoy.
So if you're a software programmer or app developer, please listen to the end. We need your help.
Yeah, we need your help, and I take payments in Bitcoin. Okay, thanks. Bye. Enjoy. Got a bubbly water. I got a coffee. This is one of those, there are a lot of types of mornings, but this was the type where I got up and I slept well today. I saw the pot of coffee, like the light was on the machine.
Yeah.
I thought, good. Someone's made coffee. I can just pour me some right before I hop in my shower and go. And I picked up the carafe, and there was like a quarter of an inch in the bottom, just about to start burning.
Oh, wow.
And I poured that in this little tiny shot glass I have and just drank it and went, well, that's over. Okay, well,
here you are.
Here I am. So I'm I don't know what that means for a morning when you get excited. You're like, yes, the coffee's ready. And then go, well, a little coffee's ready. Just a little bit. I don't know. Interpret that spiritually.
I don't know. I'm so self-centered. I was thinking, well, my day, I got up and took a shower, and my wife had already made coffee and was sitting there reading her Bible, and I got a cup of coffee, and I sat down next to her, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could just sit here all day? Yeah. So that's kind of been my my day.
Yeah.
And we have a big event coming up, which is being hosted here at the village.
And as disappointed as I was about the coffee, I thought, at least I'm not hosting the big event.
At least you're not hosting the big event. It's actually going to be a smaller event.
Yeah, it's smaller than usual, and I have things to do, but not hosting.
You're not hosting, but you do have things to do. This is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about Classis, Arizona.
Yeah, Classis is a regional body of the Christian Reformed Church that we are connected to. I am in. Eric is.
I'm in it.
In it as a pastor. The church is
not.
Is parallel to it. Yeah. To some degree.
Affiliated is how we tell people.
Yeah, and you go, well, that's a different word. Are they taking a lot of classes? No, a classis is a fleet of ships.
Yeah.
And this is a Dutch concept because this group of churches goes back to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Anyway, neither you nor I are of the Netherlands.
No, we are not.
We just find ourselves knowing some people who were.
Yeah, we do.
Mm-hmm. And organizing church with them and having accountability to them and praying and sharing a meal. And I'm generally for it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's good.
It's good that it's only an evening and a half a day.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of meetings.
No, you don't like meetings?
Nah. I mean, especially ones where they just, like, I don't mind a 2-hour meeting. That's great.
But a all-day meeting?
An all-day meeting where we're just, now this agenda. Now this report. I would like a meeting for each report.
You would like a meeting with your wife on the couch?
Yeah, I'd like a meeting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Those are good meetings.
Yeah, so before we lose our entire audience.
Oh, look at you. I've influenced you.
Yeah. Nah, it's just, this part is exciting. People get to know all about us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that is the top priority of our listeners, but unfortunately for you listeners,
it is.
Eric wants to talk about Bitcoin.
Well, so let me give you background on Bitcoin for me personally.
Please.
Before yesterday's kind of, I think for me, maybe slightly transformational thinking about Bitcoin. So most people think Bitcoin and think, oh, it's such a weird thing or whatever. And it's
like NFTs and
it's it's a cryptocurrency, and it's encryption is a part of all of our lives, and people are always encrypting data so that other people can't get into it. And honestly, I still don't fully understand crypto as a income. But a long time ago, my son, I was like, hey, should I invest in cryptocurrency? And he's like, yeah, you should invest $200. Yeah. So I did. And so I now have $300 of cryptocurrency.
Sick.
But I listened yesterday to a Theology in the Raw that's titled Thank Goodness for Bitcoin.
Eric's favorite podcast, Theology in the Raw.
It is one of my more favorite ones.
I've got a couple.
Mostly because I just, there are so many theologians out there that I've never encountered that he encounters.
Preston Sprinkle's Theology in the Raw.
Anyway, what really kind of struck me is the goal of Bitcoin was to actually help people who are poorer.
Yeah.
Not to help rich people.
Create a non-government controlled currency, right?
Yes.
So that
and there's only 21 million blocks of it or whatever.
Yeah, and the guy, interesting, a Reformed Baptist, former worship leader in the Reformed Baptist Church, who then ended up taking over the pastorate of a church in what country? Uruguay.
Uruguay.
Yeah, and
Uruguay,
so this is like a pretty conservative theological church plant in South America that and he stumbled on this because realizing one of the contextual issues in this church that they did not expect was that they ended up with a lot of refugees from other Latin American countries there, and the big swing that was happening in these Latin American countries was just the devaluing of currency,
right? Based
on the way that currency was controlled in irresponsible ways. And he began thinking about all this and thinking about even America and what it means to print money and have debt and base money on whatever it's based on, and realize that our money systems are very volatile and controlled by governments, and that the people who get affected are the poor. And so then as he looked at Bitcoin through that lens, he thought, to have a non-government controlled currency actually could be really stabilizing. My two immediate thoughts were, well, somebody controls Bitcoin, right? How does that work? And I didn't get through the whole episode because I didn't have time yesterday. And then the other, so I'm curious about that. Like, are we, is there a monetary system free from the influence of humanity and sin? And then
but it is a closed and limited system, so they can't print anything. And the comment he made that I was kind of shocking, he said, if you go to any bank and they say they have $1 billion plus of assets, and you say, can I see your ledger? Yeah. They will say, get lost. Yeah. But all you have to do is go on to Bitcoin's main site, and they will give you a PDF of their ledger, which will show you every single transaction that Bitcoin has ever made. Yeah. Including yours.
No.
So there's, because transparency, full transparency was the goal.
Yeah. And I believe that. I was just thinking, my thought was just, so a government's not in control, who is? Right. Could they do anything wrong? And then the other thought I had was, it feels, and this is, you can help me here, but I was like, but if this is really for the poorest people in the countries that, you know, get most affected by this stuff, aren't those the folks? If I don't even understand Bitcoin, and I don't understand the technology behind it, and how do I transact with it? You know,
well,
can I go buy a breakfast burrito with my Bitcoin? I am such a novice, and which is why, you know, this is a good conversation. But I was like, how is this going to help?
You're a novice, and I am like novice +1.
Yeah, perfect. So this, if you tuned in for expertise,
shared ignorance.
You have picked the wrong podcast. Right. Apparently, you should listen to Theology in the Raw, and they're probably not very high up on the. You should probably go. There's some guy out there that'll talk way over your head if you want.
Well, the guy he's interviewing has written a book on it and does whole seminars on it.
He has made it his thing, and he seems to know what he's talking about very well. Yeah, but the So okay, then, how are the poor going to engage with this?
I think I can kind of answer this question. Totally, and then you know how this happens. You buy a car that you've never seen before on the road, and then it's just always on the road. Like you never see a Volvo, and then you buy a Volvo, and then it seems like everyone's driving Volvos. Well, that happened to me. So I listened to Bitcoin, and then I saw a little video where the guy was talking about how he went to his grocery store in the Deep South, and he, you know, like a little tiny grocery store, and they're installing a Bitcoin ATM, and he's like, "Who's going to use a Bitcoin ATM?" And the manager's like, I don't know. The owner's just installing it. I don't even know how this works. I don't know how to get money out of it. So next day he said he went, and there's this Hispanic family using the ATM. And he said, so he just went over and said, like, what are you doing? Like, how does this work? And they said, oh, like, this is the easiest way for us to send money to our family in Mexico.
Yeah.
And
that is a thing. I've being someone who tends to get auto repair done in Mexico, the sending of the money is a hassle.
Yeah.
And so you're like, you got to go to Walmart and you got to get the cashier's check.
And when you send it, it holds a different kind of value.
Or send it Western Union, I mean. Yeah.
So you're doing it's really, it's not built on the income or on the monetary system that you're sending the money to or from, which is.
Yeah.
Interesting to me.
That is interesting.
Well, and the thing that really struck me and got me thinking about this, and I'm just processing, is that if I'm in, and this could happen in the U.S., but if I'm in a South American country or an African country, like we're a church and we've all saved up our money and we're going to buy a new building or hire a new staff, and then the currency is completely devalued.
Right.
All that hard tithing and all that, like it's gone.
Sure.
And Bitcoin at least allows that community in particular in third world countries to have a value that's not going, they don't have to worry about, oh, my money is going to devalue.
Yeah. I mean, I get that all is good. It's just I guess you have to build the infrastructure and teach about, and it's like electric cars, right? Like the big complaint at first was like, well, there's nowhere to charge them. And now you're like, well, there's some places, you know, I can go to a small town and there's 4 chargers maybe.
Yeah.
Or one. But so you start to believe like it's possible, and then it just you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, I think, and I wish I could remember what country he mentioned in South America, but one of them has decided to use Bitcoin as part of their economic strategy.
Interesting.
Which has helped stabilize the country. And they went from like having, like maybe he said the most immigrants to the United States to the least, because that helped stabilize their economy. I need to go back and listen to the podcast to get the exact country in that. But I thought that was interesting. It's partly so
wasn't the episode is called "Thank God for Bitcoin"?
Yes. Yeah. So you can look it up, and I'll put a link in there. I don't know how I feel about it. It just was like, I haven't thought about this. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I don't really think about how money, like, I just hadn't really thought about a theology of money beyond my own money.
Yeah, beyond like, well, I'm supposed to be responsible, but I'm also supposed to be generous. And
right.
Like getting outside of that.
My
to like,
individual.
Like monetary ethics, basically. Yes. Yeah. How... And he had some really good points about taking some basic like biblical principles like sowing and reaping and saying, so when a country, even the United States, reaps something that was not sown, that is violating a basic principle upon which the world was created. So if there's nothing backing the money, it's creating debt for future generations, and that's actually going to lead to pain and disorientation. Whereas if you reap from what you've actually sown, like resources you actually have, it's a blessing, though it's difficult. And so that's interesting. That was really a compelling. That made me want to think about it more.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that my wife and I, and maybe this is why my ears are pricked up about this, we've been talking a lot about, okay, since COVID, there's been housing has become almost impossible for young professionals.
Yeah.
And part of that he addresses actually in the podcast about how we basically airdropped so much money on the economy. And so people sometimes are offering $75,000 over asking price, which then boosts everything everywhere. And so because there was so much money,
right. And the way it was
inflates things.
The way it was framed and the way I assumed it was going to be was that this money was going to help people survive. And I'm sure that happened. But most of the people I know, including myself, I'm trying to remember exactly what we spent our COVID check on. But most of us didn't survive on it. I think we just saved it. Now that I think about it.
The majority. This is the weird. So we had a financial planner in our church, and he told me about 2022. He said, in the United States, there is more money in savings accounts than there has ever been in the U.S.'s history.
Wow.
And people are hoarding money.
Yeah.
But you're hoarding inflated money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. And so that the value of that money can change, right? And so having that money in your bank account, not that it's not good, but you have to keep that in mind. But yeah, we knew a lot of people who did one of two things. They either used it to do, something like help buy a house or some other big purchase, remodel something. We did actually do some remodeling.
I just put almost all of it in the stock market.
Yeah. And so, we did. And actually that remodeling had a lot to do with time because I did it all myself. I was like, if I'm home, I have a long list of stuff. I'm going to get it all done. And that was exciting. But we knew a lot of people who also like upgraded that TV and, probably bought things that devalued faster than money, actually, right? Cars and a television ain't holding its value, that's for sure.
No.
And so it was an interesting thing to watch where, some people saved it, some people invested it, but in my circles, and I realize again, there are circles that were very different than this, it didn't impact survival at all. Like not,
So I would say in our circle, I would say maybe 15 to 20%, it affected some level of survival.
And I could probably say something like that. Yeah.
That would be what I would say at the church anyway, in our community.
Yeah. And so that's looking back on it, of course, like, put yourself in the position of the people making those decisions. We had no idea what was going to happen.
No clue. I don't blame.
No clue.
I don't blame them.
But you look back on it and you go, well, here's what we dropped all this money, right? Like you're saying, and it then went ahead and inflated the housing market to where people can't. The money they got doesn't get them anywhere as far as getting a place to live.
Yeah,
made it worse for everybody.
Well, no, I was just thinking about like one of the things that people talk about when they talk about church and state and the separation of it, and I'm not trying to get into like the American history and was there really separation of church and state.
Please clear that up.
When the conversation is going on, sometimes people talk about, oh, well, your country your church, this is a 501c, and it gets tax exemptions.
Yep.
And it's playing in the system where people are reaping things they aren't sowing. So is it possible that you could just say, hey, we're going to step out of this monetary system? Yeah, you can give from it, but we're going to transfer it all over to Bitcoin, and live in our church isn't going to operate in that world anymore. And would that even be a good idea? I mean, I'm just really throwing it out there.
Now we're in the world, but not of the world, except the Bitcoin world.
The Bitcoin world, where
that scares me a little bit. If I'm just honest, not knowing much, but again, back to my question. So, could anything happen to Bitcoin?
Well, that was asked.
Yeah.
By Preston, because Preston,
good job, interviewer. Yeah.
And the guy said, yes, it can go up and it can go down, but because it's a scarcity, and the way it's designed is to become more scarce because it's mined, and then there's a value on that mining and all that.
And this to me is entirely foreign.
We don't understand. Yeah. But I also don't understand gold mining.
I get it a little bit. Yeah. Like you get that pick.
You dig down there and get some.
Then there's some shiny stuff, and you got to tell if it's the gold or the fool's gold, right? And then you got the pan. And then there's the river, and you get out there in that river, and sometimes you get a little nugget.
Yeah.
Well, and then you take that somewhere and you sell that. I get that.
When you go up to Globe, Miami, and there's a big mine up there, the open pit mine, it's a copper mine.
Yeah.
Do you know what pays for that mine? Gold.
Right.
They don't. The copper is
the gold standard. Yeah.
Profit.
Yeah.
The gold they mined out of that thing pays for it.
Yeah. That's
craziness.
My wife lost a gold necklace, and
you just went up to the pit and got some.
And we went and mined our own. But no, we trying to figure out what it was worth, and it's
a lot.
Yeah.
Gold is worth a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so anyway, I don't know how you mine this stuff, but he basically said.
But I guess I'm saying didn't at some point it just get made up too? Like it's not like somebody was like a hacker was just going through people's websites and he was like, "Whoa, look what I found on the back end of the village church's website. A little nugget of Bitcoin."
It'd be kind of cool if you just surfed and your computer just got little flecks of Bitcoin.
You just Googled. Dude, when you see me just scrolling on my phone, don't. I want you to know I'm mining. Don't accuse me of being distracted. I'm mining right there.
Bitcoin mining, people.
I'm looking for gold.
Maybe you could shake,
when you found a really great meme, you just shook it.
Yeah.
Like a gold pan. And we were like, "Whoa, it's staying on my screen. I got gold. I got Bitcoin."
We did it. We've come up with our own currency. That's great. Yeah. Wow.
Oh my gosh. I hope somebody creates this app where you can actually mine for Bitcoin with the old style mining movements.
Yes.
Like you swing and you shake.
This is good. Yeah. Yeah. That is really good. I like it. Oh my gosh.
Hey, if you do that, you owe me money. Whoever out there, listen, you owe me.
It's copyrighted.
That I own that idea.
Yeah. Copyrighted by
Send me Bitcoin.
Breakfast. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I probably will invest a little more in Bitcoin than I normally do.
Yeah.
Not because I want to make money, but partly because I'm like, wow, maybe I'm investing in something that is actually more morally sound.
Yeah. No, that part is really interesting.
Than investing in a stock. I own Tesla. I'll be clear. I own Tesla stock.
Yeah.
Is that actually a moral investment? I don't know. I don't really think about it.
Well, and we should, right? Yeah. And I've more of my approach has been, and I got to get better at this, but it's kind of like I've got the accounts trusting the finance guy.
Sure.
I think there's some crypto. I can't even remember.
I'm sure he's bought you a little crypto.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I only have so much space in my head, right? Mm-hmm. And some people give a lot of space to this, and partially because they love it and it's kind of a game. And this is the same reason I have no inclination to gamble. I don't the whole money movement thing, I don't like it. It doesn't do it for me. It's not.
No,
I like talking to people and telling stories. Money, boring, and that doesn't help me out. And so I wish, and I want to know. I need to know some more.
Yeah.
And but also there's a part of me that's like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get that into it. I don't know, it's just not me. Yeah. But that's why you got to have a finance guy.
Hopefully, maybe we get at least piques in people's interest, or they just thought, hey, your guys are crazy.
Yeah, I think they liked the app idea.
I think so, too.
Yeah. Hope y'all enjoyed that.
Like, I think thinking about how your government deals with money and the morality of it is important.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what we do with our money, and what we fund with it.
Yeah. That was the most interesting piece. I will finish the podcast at some point. I did enjoy it, but the most interesting piece to me was that question of the bigger picture of the morality of money, and not just like so you can draw lines and say that's immoral,
right?
But more to think about the consequences of immoral behavior when it comes to money, as with everything else.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's, you have limited power as an individual in how you engage with the currency with which your country uses to exchange goods. So, I mean, you just have to kind of trust that Jesus will guide you in that process. And it should be a conversation we should all be having.
You're going to live in this system.
Yeah.
You're going to have to participate. But if you can be more knowledgeable and growing and being more wise and shooting for the better, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I'll just to say, I think the part that really got me excited about Bitcoin was not necessarily saying, oh yeah, like the village is now going to become the Bitcoin church and we're not going to. More, I thought, well, what about like just helping third world country churches?
Sending them Bitcoin.
Yeah, and having stability, like so that they're not in a place where they're caught by the kind of stressors of their economy. Yeah. But that they can actually have wisdom in the way that they've invested so that they can care for the people in the midst of all of that. So I don't know, and Bitcoin may provide an opportunity for that.
Sure.
And for missionaries to be a little bit more stable.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Oh, that's super interesting.
So maybe Christian Reformed Church needs to think about Bitcoin.
Well, yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
They're concerned about their general giving going down. Now's a good time to
Bitcoin.
Switch to Bitcoin. We could.
I was gonna.
Why don't we spend this class as mining?
Yeah, or making that proposal. It's a little too late now, but maybe for next classes I'll write up a proposal.
Yeah,
that we need to start churches with big Bitcoin mining rooms. You need to dedicate one room of your building to mining Bitcoin.
Shoot.
By like 10, 15 computers that mine Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you find it, you say,
deep end.
That's mine.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
There you go. That was all.
Is that a podcast?
I don't know.
It could be a short podcast, huh?
25 minutes. Yeah. It's not bad.
It's different.
It's different for people.
Hey, guys, enjoy that short little podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Sometimes you see a friend and you want a nice long chat, and other times you see one and you go, you know what? I got a coffee in my hand. It's good to see you, and I got to take off. And maybe this is one of those days.
Bitcoin, I don't want to talk about that. I'm done. I got a sermon to go work on.
I only have so much space in my head for this Bitcoin talk. Yeah.
Right.
No, it's interesting. I definitely my takeaway from starting to listen to that and talking to you is I do want to learn more.
Yeah, it definitely made me want to learn more, and not to be so like critical of like, oh, it's just some stupid thing. I don't understand it. Why are people? It's just going to go away.
Yeah.
I think it's here to stay, and I think it's going to have a big impact long term. So we have to think about it.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you.
faithoverbreakfast@gmail.com is the old school way. Like if you carry cash in your wallet and keep a wad of cash under your mattress, that's the way you get a hold of us. The other way is you can, in your podcast app, just hit send a message. And if you're more of a Bitcoin type, maybe that's what you want to do. You just want to text us through the podcasting app and say, hey, I've got this on my mind. Maybe it's Dogecoin.
Hey,
and or And since we won't know anything about that, there's a million other questions you can
Right.
ask.
And that's, I was talking to Corey, and he was like, hey, we should start asking people on the podcast. Just send us a little text saying, hey, I'm so-and-so from Ohio, and I listen.
Do a shout out.
Yeah, give us some shout outs so we can.
Reminds me of Sunday Night Slow Jams, which started right here in Tucson, Arizona.
There you go. Sunday Night Slow Jams.
Yeah. There were shout outs. There were other things we can't discuss that they said and did, but it was a show that impacted many people's young adulthood.
All right.
Anyway, signing off.
Signing off. Thank you. You've been listening to Faith Over Breakfast with Pastor Eric Siepen and Pastor Andy Littleton. Please share us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you.